All right, today we're going to unpack a short but wow, a really powerful text by an author named Pierre G. Martin. He uses this sharp historical lens to look at a modern political problem, something he calls the people's abdication.
So, right out of the gate, Martin hits you with a line that's designed to just stop you in your tracks. Now, this is not an endorsement, of course. It's a hook, a deliberately jarring one, meant to set up his big question. In our crazy, complex world, why are we sometimes so drawn to this idea of a simpler, maybe more authoritarian past?
And let's be super clear here. Martin isn't talking about what the past was actually like. He's talking about the perception of it, this kind of myth of a time when everything seemed black and white. He uses that contrast to get us thinking about how we deal with a present that feels, just endlessly complicated. And it's right here, in this modern complexity, that Martin says an old threat is sort of finding new life. He makes the case that fascism has actually learned from its mistakes, it's changed its look, and it has evolved for our time. So how has it evolved? Well, according to Martin, the fascism of the past was, really obvious. It was loud, it was in your face. But today's version, he argues it's much quieter. It works in more subtle, more insidious ways, which makes it a lot harder to even spot at first. But here's the thing, even with this new face, Martin is adamant that the core strategy hasn't changed one bit. The goal isn't to conquer by force, not at first anyway. The goal has always been, and he says it still is, to seduce the people. Okay, so if the strategy is to seduce, how does that actually work? What's the recipe for it? Well, Martin lays out a very specific playbook, what he calls the formula of demagoguery. At its heart, demagoguery isn't really about complicated policies. As Martin puts it, it's all about flattery. It's the art of figuring out what people want to hear, what they're afraid of, and just saying it right back to them. And this whole idea, it's not new at all. In fact, it's ancient. It goes all the way back to Rome. The classic strategy for keeping a population quiet has always been bread and circuses. In other words, keep them fed and keep them entertained. But, and this is where Martin's analysis gets really interesting, he says the formula has been updated for modern times. It's not just bread and games anymore. He argues there's a third, absolutely essential ingredient today, the promise of security. So what does he mean by security? It's not just about, being safe from harm. It's about the security of being left alone in your own little bubble. It's that desire to just consume your stuff and be entertained without anyone bothering you, even if the life you're enjoying is, as he says, pretty miserable. So, if a population takes this deal, bread, games, and security, what's the catch, right? This brings us to the ultimate cost, the price that's paid for all this comfortable quiet. Martin really captures this whole mindset with one powerful, imagined line. It's this plea for just being left alone. Let us enjoy our existence, however sad it may be. It's about choosing that private, maybe unfulfilling life over the hard work of being an engaged citizen. So in Martin's eyes, this isn't just people being lazy or checked out. Nope, he uses a much stronger term for it, a total abdication. It's the conscious act of trading away your civic duty, your responsibility, and ultimately your power, all for the sake of personal comfort. And this is where the text ends, with a really stark and chilling warning. Martin presents this whole thing not as a possibility, but as a historical constant. An abdication like this, he writes, is a debt, and it's a debt that the people always, always end up paying back at a very, very high price. Which, of course, leaves us with the big echoing question that Martin's text forces you to ask. If he's right, if this pattern really does hold true, what exactly is the price of this abdication today? And when does that bill finally come due?